வாழ்க வளமுடன். This is the second part of the discussion on life force particle. Let us start with some revision of what happened in the first part. Those who have missed the first part, you can see the link in the description and also in the first comment that will take you to the first part of this video. It's very important for you to see the first part so that you can understand the second part much more easily. So we have looked into the divine dust particle and how the life force particles are forming from divine dust particle and how life force particle is oriented in a common man, those who beginning in yoga practice, in a consistent practitioner, and also an enlightened yogi. And we have clearly understood that enlightened yogi will have lots of divine dust particle and life force particle in a calm central state with much more density. This dense life force particle directly proportionate to a person's health, mental well-being and strength. Those who have less dense life force particle, they will end up in higher mental frequency and also the physical disease. We have gone through the imprints formation, how the imprints are using the life force particle to get energy from the genetic source. The imprints are forming magnetic knots through which all the impressions of our life were compressed like images and stored. The life force particle, which is a spinning system with the genetic center, it grows, it matures, and it results in the characteristics of the states. We have studied the nature of the life force particle and role played by the life force particle in the blueprint of the whole body. The life force particles can be strengthful with weakness. With the help of the genetic center, the life force particle is able to regenerate. A living being's experience is due to the biomagnetic wave. Its specific vibrations, frequencies, wavelengths are all due to the specific type of the biomagnetic wave. The photographic images by the imprints helps in formation of the biomagnetic waves. The compression of the images as the biomagnetic waves travels across the genetic center. The Xerox images, as we discussed as imprints, will shrink to a dot point. At this stage, separation of the biomagnetic waves and the Xerox images forming the knots separate from the mother wave, they all left in genetic center as imprints. So in summary, the understanding of this slide is the biomagnetic waves forms the magnetic knots in the genetic center, which forms imprints for longer term storage, and that forms the source of biomagnetic waves in the future also. So how the imprints are formed? The imprints are in the form of biomagnetic wave, and the waves are nothing but absolute space which is recharged with the mighty unified force surrounding self-compressive pressure force. So that's how, if a yogi get associate himself with the absolute space, there is no recharge, there is no self-compressive force, so he ends up getting away from all the imprints and karmic manifestations. So he gets frees himself from the Xerox copy of whatever the sensory images which is formed and getting stored in the genetic center. The almighty force and the consciousness with its perfect order of function forms the Xerox copy, which we call as imprints. The images are formed with inexhaustible continuous supply of energy from the genetic center. The live images gets compressed to form the imprint and left in the interface of the genetic center. It is located in a changeless absolute space with liveliness stored for infinite period of time, going from birth to death to birth to death. Each biomagnetic field is a spinning system. As we discussed, it consists of a stationary central axis formed by the absolute space and the fastest periphery. The spin has the velocity, specific density, which depends upon the divine dust particles. The number of particles show the gradient of the genetic center to the periphery. The nature of the spinning system is congenial to the formation and functioning of the imprints. Since the imprints are stored in a relatively adynamic state, it's quite difficult for a person without an arduous spiritual practice to enter into that area and clear the imprint. That's why historically human beings suffered a lot due to their specific respective imprints. So, if a man wants to protect himself from the distortions, he needs to follow the yogic ways by which the imprints can be cleared. This slide quite clearly explains how the safety pins are attracted by the magnet, and also if you take a human hand with the help of the magnet, the hand gets magnetized and hand attracts the iron balls. So when our body cells were nicely magnetized, we are able to hold all the imprints in a very cohesive manner. Thus, the imprints can't express or get loosened out and getting manifested in our life. We will be able to hold them in a cohesive manner without much impact in our day to day life. We will focus on the cause and effect system briefly before we conclude the discussion. We know that cause and effect system means it will never fail and it always succeeds. Vivekananda used to say, good, good, bad, bad. Nobody can succeed the cause and effect system. It is very ingeniously invented system by our Indian yogis, and it is the way by which the Almighty is able to generate, operate, destroy mental and physical activities of the entire universe. The cause and effect remains static, changeless, actionless, yet is responsible for the entire activity of the universe without involving himself. Even though it is a static Almighty, it doesn't involve the activity of the entire universe. It can collapse to nothing and stay there. The static portion is responsible for the entire activity, which is what the understandable nature of the divinity. Exceptional occasions where cause and effect system may fail, when the duality becomes Advaitam, that's where the cause and effect system completely fails, because a man get orients himself with that oneness, and no way there is a duality for the cause and effect system to act. When the night and day exist together, when death and birth function simultaneously at the level of cells, birth of new cells with simultaneous death of old cells are happening. When a stationary wave operates, a condition where dynamic and static states exist together. When brain, rhythm, pattern of change, imprints in beta and alpha frequencies become non functional, it fails in the theta and delta rhythms. When the spinning system changes or stops its spins, the collapse of the whole governing system can happen in the country. Choiceless, egoless, selfless, absolute pure awareness in the center will come to an end, as mentioned by J. Krishnamurti. வாழ்க வளமுடன். Be blessed by the divine. This presentation is done by a wholehearted support from the R&D team of the Vision. In summary, we understood how absolute space is the primordial source for the divine dust particle, which results in life force particle, which is the backbone of a human being's life force. The biomagnetism is the one which helps in changing the inputs from the five sense organs into the imprints in the genetic center in the form of magnetic knots. The same biomagnetism is responsible for the magnetic knots to be expressed as a karma. Cause and effect system works quite successfully, creating good to good and bad to bad. If a trained yogi is able to improve the biomagnetism by using the Kaya Kalpa, and during the meditations, if he is able to focus the life force particles to that center core, which is more dense and less vibrations or less movement, he is getting extremely good health. Less amount of life force particle can get wasted from the body. More strong, dense, divine life force particle results in healthy body and mind. I hope this explanation is useful to you and your family and friends. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.